They say betrayal has a sound. For me, it was a soft click, the sound of my bedroom door being pushed shut from the outside. "Stay out of sight when guests come," Emily whispered, her hand still on the doorknob, like she was locking away a problem instead of a person. I didn't answer. I just watched the door close and felt the quiet burn of a truth I'd been trying not to face. It wasn't the first time she'd tried to shrink me, but this time, something was different. Because those guests weren't friends. They were property evaluators, walking through the house in my name, while Emily smiled like the lady of the manor. And my son? Ethan didn't even know they were coming. The real twist came 10 minutes later when another car pulled up. Not the evaluators, not friends, not neighbors, her. Emily's mother. The woman she claimed she hadn't spoken to in years. The woman she said was toxic and dangerous. The woman she swore she'd cut off long before marrying my son. But there she was, stepping out in a tailored coat, walking into my house like she owned the deed. And Emily greeted her with a hug so rehearsed it might as well have been a confession. That's when my stomach dropped. This wasn't about guests, or embarrassment, or some petty feud. This was a coordinated move. 2 women, 1 house, 1 target, me. But what Emily didn't know, what her mother couldn't possibly guess, was that the property, the savings, the business shares, everything they thought they were stealing quietly was legally tied to one person, me. And when quiet women stand still, it's not fear, it's calculation. Stay till the end. Well, you'll see why. I didn't come out of that room right away. Not because I was scared. Fear is loud, messy, sloppy. What I felt was quiet, a kind of cold clarity that settles in your bones when the truth finally stops hiding. From the thin gap under the door, I could see their shadows drifting across the hallway. Emily's sharp heels clicking with purpose, her mother's steadier steps following like a mentor overseeing an apprentice. Funny, isn't it? My son's wife had spent years telling Ethan she had no family, no one to lean on, no legacy, but the one they were building together. Yet here she was, guiding her mother through the house she pretended wasn't mine. I cracked the door open just enough to breathe. What I saw made my jaw tighten. The evaluators were in the living room, measuring corners, murmuring about market value. Emily and her mother floated behind them, pointing at walls, pretending to be helpful, pretending they hadn't pushed the real owner behind a closed door like a forgotten coat. Her mother, Linda, looked around with eyes that scanned like a scanner at checkout. She wasn't visiting. She was calculating. Emily leaned in close to her, whispering, "She'll sign the papers soon. Trust me." My pulse didn't spike. I didn't gasp. I just let their words sit in the air like dust I refused to breathe in. Sign what papers? When did they even prepare papers? And why was Emily so sure I'd sign anything? I stepped out quietly, blending into the edge of the hallway, watching them before anyone noticed. I've lived long enough to know that the worst betrayals don't happen in storms. They happen in calm rooms, with calm voices by people who stay close enough to reach your throat. I moved slowly, like I belonged in the background, a habit I learned when my husband got sick, when nurses walked past me like I wasn't the one paying for every pill, when people assumed older women don't understand the world. Let them underestimate me. It's the only advantage they willingly hand over. As I walked into the kitchen, pretending I needed water, Emily's eyes flicked to me, a quick, sharp glance, the kind a person gives a dog that's wandered into a room it shouldn't be in. "May," she said, her voice sugary, "you're awake." Awake, as if I'd been hibernating, as if I wasn't the one who raised Ethan while she polished her illusions. Linda's gaze followed, slower, more deliberate. She was studying me, not my face, but my awareness. She wanted to know how much I'd seen, what I might have overheard. I gave her nothing. A calm smile, A small nod, and I kept pouring my water with hands that didn't shake. "Everything okay?" I asked, voice smooth as the surface of that glass. Emily jumped in before her mother could. "Oh, yes, just having some people look at the house for insurance purposes." Insurance? I almost laughed. She didn't even bother crafting a good lie. She was too sure the game was already rigged. Linda placed a hand on Emily's arm, a gesture so practiced, so controlling, it told me everything I needed to know. Emily wasn't the mastermind. She was the puppet. And the puppeteer had just walked through my door wearing a diamond ring and a condescending smile. I drank my water in silence. Silence is a weapon, too. The kind that makes liars nervous. Emily shifted. Linda cleared her throat. The evaluators continued their measurements, oblivious to the family earthquake rumbling beneath the floorboards. It was then, standing in that kitchen, that I felt a faint tremor inside myself, a realization, a memory. Not a long flashback, just a quick shard of truth slicing through the moment. My late husband telling me, "May, people will smile right up to the minute they take your house keys." And here it was, the smile, the house, the keys, the plan. Not imagined, not paranoia. Real. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Because confrontation reveals your cards, and I wasn't done collecting theirs. Instead, I said lightly, "Well, I'll let you ladies finish. Let me know when you're done." Then I walked back toward my room, but not to hide. No. I went to listen. Because when people think you're out of sight, they tell the truth out loud. And I heard one line, one single careless whisper that told me everything was bigger than a property sale. Emily muttered to her mother, "Once she signs, Ethan won't argue anymore. He'll have no choice." No choice? Over what? Over the house? The business? His own mother? I didn't know yet. But the tone in her voice, cold, confident, final, made my skin prickle. This wasn't just betrayal, this was an operation, and they thought I was a sleeping old woman. I sat on my bed, hands folded, heartbeat steady as stone. There comes a moment in every woman's life where she stops trying to be understood and starts planning to be underestimated. I hit that moment right then, and the calm that washed over me felt almost dangerous. I wasn't scared. I wasn't shaken. I wasn't even angry. I was preparing. And the moment a mother starts preparing, someone else is already losing. I didn't know their whole plan yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't the one trapped behind that bedroom door. They were. Your move, Emily. Your move, Linda. I was ready. The first fracture didn't come loud. No slam doors, no screaming match, just a small moment, thin as thread, but sharp enough to slice something deep inside me. It happened the next morning. The evaluators were gone, but the tension they left behind clung to the walls like humidity. Emily was in the kitchen, pretending to wipe down a perfectly clean counter. Her mother sat at the table, sipping tea she hadn't offered me. I walked in quietly. Older women know how to make their footsteps weightless. "Good morning," I said. Emily didn't answer. Linda didn't look up. The silence was intentional, coordinated, like they'd practiced it. I opened a cabinet to get a cup. My cup, the one with the blue rim that Ethan gave me on Mother's Day years ago, and found it missing. Odd. I always place it on the left shelf. Always. "Looking for something?" Emily asked, still not turning. "My cup," I said. She finally glanced back, her expression too neutral. "Oh, I moved a few things around. Thought the kitchen needed reorganizing." Reorganizing. It sounded harmless, but something in her tone felt like she'd moved more than dishes. I checked the sink. Nothing. Checked the drying rack. Nothing. Checked the dishwasher. Empty. Linda finally spoke, her voice warm in that artificial way people use when they want you to feel unwelcome. "You know how it is at your age, May. Things get misplaced easily. My fingers tightened around the counter edge. Not from anger, from recognition. I'd heard that line before. In a hospital hallway, whispered about my husband when his memory first slipped. It's a weapon disguised as sympathy. Emily chimed in. If you can't keep track of little things, it might be time to let us help with bigger ones. Another harmless-sounding sentence. Another fracture. This one deeper. I didn't respond. Silence can be a blade, too. Instead, I opened the top drawer where I keep important household papers. Warranties, appliance manuals, receipts. The drawer looked different. Emptier. Tidy in a way that didn't match my neat chaos. Did you move things here too? I asked. Emily shrugged. Just clearing clutter. Clutter. She meant my documents, my proof, my history. I closed the drawer slowly as if I hadn't noticed the missing papers. The roofing warranty, the updated title copy, the appraisal. Gone. All gone. Another fracture. But the next one, that one cracked the floor under my feet. Linda stood up, stretched her sleeves, and said to Emily, Ethan leaves for work at 9, right? You'll need to talk to him before then. Talk to him? About what? Emily nodded, glancing at me with the same patience you give a toddler interrupting adult conversation. Yeah, we'll need him to understand that she's slipping. Slipping. There it was. The word they wanted to attach to me. A label, a narrative, a weapon dressed as concern. Linda added, Judges love clean documentation. The sooner we start showing signs of cognitive decline, the better. I stopped breathing for half a second. Not because I didn't understand, but because I understood too well. They weren't just trying to take the house. They weren't just trying to take control. They were trying to build a case. A legal one. One that paints me as unfit. So any signature they force now, or later, would stand unchallenged. And my son? My sweet Ethan? He was being softened, manipulated, fed small lies like vitamins until he swallowed the big one whole. That's the thing about good manipulation. It doesn't start with screams. It starts with tiny adjustments, a missing cup, a moved paper, a new kitchen rule, a whisper in your son's ear when he's tired. They thought they were subtle. They thought I was slow. They thought age makes you blind, but age doesn't make you blind. It makes you fluent in quiet danger. I stood still, letting their words wash over me like cold water, not drowning me, sharpening me. Emily's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and smiled. Perfect. Ethan's on his way back. He forgot his laptop. Good. I wanted to see my boy. I wanted to see how deep they'd gotten. Before he arrived, Emily leaned close to Linda and whispered, Don't say anything yet. Let me guide him. He always listens when I'm calm. Always listens. Not discusses. Not shares. Listens. Another fracture. A few minutes later, Ethan walked in, tired, distracted, but still my son. He kissed Emily's forehead, said hello to her mother, then looked at me and hesitated. Just half a second, barely noticeable, but a mother sees everything. Something had changed in him. A small shift, a seed planted. A doubt forming. He gave me a gentle smile, the kind you give someone fragile, someone you're worried might break. That smile cut deeper than anything Emily or Linda had said, because it wasn't his fault, and yet it was part of the plan. Emily stepped beside him, resting her hand on his arm. Babe, we should talk after you grab your laptop, about your mom, about some concerns. Concerns. The word tasted like poison. Ethan nodded slowly, uncertain. Already softened by their quiet campaign, that's when something inside me settled. A heavy, cold awareness. This wasn't about cups or papers or whispers. This was about erasure. Not killing me, not hurting me, just removing me. Softly, legally, neatly. And that was the moment. The exact moment. I knew what I had to do. I had to stop reacting, stop arguing, stop defending. I had to observe, learn, collect. That's when I started watching. After that moment, something inside me shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet click of understanding, the same way a lock accepts a key. I didn't raise my voice, didn't confront anyone, didn't try to defend myself. I simply stepped back inside myself and watched. Distance is a strange thing. It doesn't push people away. It pulls you into focus. Emily moved around the house with a little more confidence, like she believed she had already won. Her mother followed her motions, offering suggestions, whispering corrections, guiding her like a coach, training a player before a big match. I watched the two of them from the corner of my eye, never reacting. When you stop reacting, manipulators get restless. They need your flinch, your confusion, your denial. I offered them nothing. That afternoon, I folded laundry on the dining table. Slow, steady motions, each crease neat and exact. Folding towels has a rhythm to it. It calms the air. While my hands worked, my eyes stayed sharp. I could hear their conversation in the kitchen. They assumed distance meant weakness. It didn't. It meant awareness. Linda was telling Emily, "You need consistency. If you say she's confused, let her look confused. Keep things moving around. Don't let her settle." Emily nodded like a dutiful student. "I'm trying. She's harder to pin down than I thought." Harder to pin down. They weren't looking for truth. They were looking for patterns they could twist. If I paused before answering, they'd call it forgetfulness. If I misplaced a key, they'd call it decline. They wanted signs, so I gave them none. When Ethan came home that evening, I saw the subtle shift in how he watched me. Curious, cautious, maybe even guilty. He hugged me, but it felt lighter, like he didn't want to press too hard, like he was afraid I might crack. It wasn't his fault, not entirely. Influence is slow, and Emily was clever in her softness. During dinner, the tension draped over the table like an extra tablecloth. Emily served everyone. I stayed quiet, eating in small bites, listening to the undertone of every exchange. When I reached for the salt, she took it first, then handed it over with an overdone smile. "Here you go, May. Careful now." Linda smiled behind her glass. Ethan didn't notice, but I did. Little things. Small gestures that hinted at a bigger plan. I kept my voice calm when I finally spoke. "Emily, did you ever find my blue-rimmed cup?" She blinked, surprised I remembered. "No, I think you misplaced it." I didn't argue. "I see." Just that, nothing more. She shifted in her chair like the silence made her uneasy. When dinner ended, Ethan went upstairs for a work call. The second he was gone, the atmosphere changed. Emily stood straighter. Linda's smile flattened into something colder. "You need rest," Emily said, her tone coated with fake concern. "Maybe," I replied. I wasn't giving them anything. Later, I poured myself tea. A simple act, but it carried weight. While the kettle hissed softly, Emily and Linda watched from the living room. I could feel their eyes on my back, waiting for me to spill, fumble, or forget something. I didn't. I made my tea, placed the cup down, and sat at the table with steady hands. The tea was warm, quiet, grounding, symbolic in a way that even they didn't understand. Tea has always been my way of thinking, my way of resetting. Sitting there, sipping slowly, I felt the emotional distance settle fully into place. Not coldness, not numbness, just clarity. They were building a story, a slow echo of their own fears and ambitions, and they thought I was trapped inside their version. But they had already made their first mistake. They thought the game had started. They didn't know I had already stepped outside it. By the time the cup was empty, I'd made my decision. I would not confront, I would collect, I would not react, I would reveal. And when I finally stood up, calm and quiet, I saw the first flicker of uncertainty in Emily's eyes. Good. Uncertainty is the first crack in a liar's confidence. The major incident didn't arrive with fireworks. It came wrapped in politeness, quiet voices, and paperwork disguised as kindness. That's how people like Emily and her mother operate. They dress danger in clean sleeves. It happened 3 days after I decided to stay silent. 3 days of watching, listening, keeping track of every slip in their smiles. By then, they were certain I'd softened, that I'd accepted whatever little story they were building. That morning, the house felt too still. Even the walls seemed to be holding their breath. Linda arrived early wearing a blazer instead of her usual cardigan. Emily had her hair pinned tight, makeup subtle but firm. Women don't prepare their faces like that unless they want to convince someone of something. I sat in the living room, reading a book I wasn't actually reading, and watched their quiet choreography. Emily glanced toward the window every few minutes, checking the driveway. Linda kept pulling out her phone, scrolling, hiding the screen when I looked up. At 10:17 sharp, a silver SUV pulled in. Emily straightened her blouse. "They're here," she murmured. They, not he, not she. They, plural, planned. A man and a woman stepped out, both carrying folders. Not evaluators this time, something colder, something official. Linda greeted them first. "Thank you for coming," she said softly, like she'd done this many times before. My pulse stayed steady. Nothing surprises a woman who has already accepted betrayal as reality. They entered like professionals who'd been briefed, eyes scanning me, but not in a respectful way. More like they were assessing, verifying, and confirming a script in their heads. Emily walked toward me, her tone dripping gentle authority. "May, we need to talk for a moment. It's nothing serious, just routine." Routine. Another word liars love. "What's this about?" I asked. Emily sat on the couch beside me, too close, hands folded like she was delivering condolences. "It's just a wellness evaluation, a simple check, for your safety." Linda added quickly, "Everyone your age goes through it eventually. Better to start early." Start early. They didn't even try to hide the ambition in that comment. The man in the blazer introduced himself. "I'm a social care consultant. Your family had some concerns about cognitive changes." Concerns. There it was again. The word they'd been cultivating like a plant. I didn't react. I didn't defend myself. That would have fed their narrative. Instead, I leaned back and said calmly, "All right, go on." He blinked. He wasn't expecting cooperation. They never do. Emily stepped behind him, watching my face like a hawk. Linda crossed her arms, satisfied. The evaluator began asking questions, simple ones. Dates, names, memories, tasks. I answered each one slow but precise. Not sharp enough to seem defensive, not slow enough to seem confused, just clear, steady, controlled. Every so often, Emily would chime in lightly. "Mom sometimes forgets where she puts things," or "She's been feeling overwhelmed lately." I said nothing back. Silence is a mirror. It shows people their own intentions. Then came the real moment, the part they'd been preparing for. The woman evaluator placed a stack of papers on the table. "These are just recommendations for assistance," she explained. "Nothing binding, unless you agree." Emily stood straighter. Linda stepped closer. They were waiting for surrender. I reached for the papers slowly. My fingers brushed the top page, and that's when I saw it. The document wasn't a recommendation. It was a guardianship initiation. The first step toward declaring someone legally unfit to make decisions. Ethan didn't know. I knew he didn't. He would never agree to this on his own. This wasn't his voice. This was theirs. I looked up at Emily. Our eyes locked. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "We just want what's best for you," she said. "Best for me." Funny how betrayal always arrives dressed as care. I placed the papers back down. "Do I need to sign today?" I asked quietly. Linda answered too fast. "Yes, it's better while everything is in order." Emily shot her mother a warning glance. Subtle, but noticeable. They were out of sync. Good. I kept my tone steady. "Before I sign anything, I need to speak with Ethan." Emily stiffened. She hadn't expected that. She recovered quickly. He's busy with a work call. It won't take long. You trust me, right? Trust. The most abused word in family warfare. I'll wait, I said. And then something beautiful happened. The front door opened. Ethan walked in early. Emily's face drained. Linda froze. The evaluators stepped back slightly, instinctively, like they sensed the shift. Mom, Ethan said, seeing me surrounded. What's going on? Emily rushed to him. Babe, we're just helping your mom. She needs more support than she realizes. I watched my son's expression, and for a brief second, I saw the conflict inside him. Doubt versus trust. It tightened my chest, but I let him sit with it. The male evaluator spoke up. Yes, your family requested an early assessment due to concerns about... Wait, Ethan cut in. I didn't request anything. There, the first crack in their plan. Linda stepped forward. It was necessary. You've been stressed, and someone had to take initiative. Ethan frowned. Without talking to me? Emily touched his arm gently. I thought we agreed it was time. No, he said slowly. We never agreed on that. Silence stretched, not calm, not peaceful, tense like a bowstring pulled back. I finally spoke. 3 words, measured, direct, sharp enough to slice through the room. Read the papers. Ethan picked them up, scanned the first page, and his entire face changed. Shock first, then confusion, then anger. He turned to Emily, voice low. You tried to put my mother under guardianship? Emily's lips parted. Babe, listen. No, he snapped. You listen. Linda moved closer, trying to smooth things over. Ethan, honey, you don't understand. He cut her off too. I understand perfectly. The room pulsed with tension. Emily's mask cracked. Linda's confidence faltered. The evaluators were frozen. I sat still, hands folded in my lap, feeling the calmest I had in days. That moment, that shift, was the beginning. Not the end of their plan, but the beginning of mine. Inside, quietly, without a tremor, I made a vow. I would end this thoroughly, and none of them would see it coming. After Ethan saw the papers, the room didn't explode. It tightened. Like everyone was holding in a breath they were afraid to exhale. But silence doesn't hide guilt. It exposes it. Emily stepped toward him, voice soft, steadying itself like she could pull him back into her version of reality. Ethan, I was trying to protect your mom. She's been slipping. You've seen it. He didn't answer, because he had seen something. Not confusion, but the pressure they'd been applying. Doubt hung in his eyes, but the fog around him was clearing. Linda stepped in, trying to redirect. It was all for her comfort. These things get complicated if you wait too long. My son held up the papers like they were contaminated. This isn't comfort, he said quietly. This is control. That line landed heavy. Even the evaluators shifted, realizing they'd been pulled into something more manipulative than they expected. Emily swallowed, her calm starting to crack. Can we talk privately? No, Ethan said. We talk here. Good. A public unraveling is harder to repair. The evaluators excused themselves politely, sensing they'd stepped into a family firestorm. Emily protested, Wait, we still need the assessment. But they fled. Even professionals know when a house is about to split open. The moment the door closed behind them, the temperature dropped. Emily turned to Ethan, eyes glossy, not from sadness, but from calculation. You know your mom's been struggling. She forgets things. She misplaces... I cut in calmly. What exactly have I forgotten, Emily? Her eyes darted. Your cup. Important papers. Medicine times. I don't take any prescribed medicine. That made her blink. Just a small flick, but big enough to tell me she didn't expect me to keep track of my own life. Ethan folded his arms. Emily, did you move her files? Silence. Too long. Too heavy. Then, we were organizing. Linda added. She needed help. I looked at her, meeting her eyes with a steady gaze that made her flinch just slightly. She wasn't as confident as she pretended. A moment later, Emily's phone buzzed. She turned it over quickly, trying to hide the name flashing on the screen. But I saw it. Just a glimpse. A first name only. Russell. I didn't react, but the image locked into my mind. A new name. A new link. A new crack. Emily shoved the phone into her pocket and said, "Can we just stop this drama? I tried to do the right thing." Ethan's jaw tensed. For who? For my mother or for yourself? Emily didn't answer. Linda spoke instead. "You're overwhelmed, sweetie. You've been carrying everything." Emily was just, "Carrying what?" Ethan snapped. "Mom doesn't ask for anything." The house vibrated with the truth of that line. They'd built their whole scheme on the idea that Ethan wouldn't notice what they were doing, but they underestimated a son's instinct, that quiet sense of right and wrong he inherited from his father. Emily drew in a breath, preparing another script, but before she could open her mouth, Ethan turned to me. "You okay, Mom?" That question, so simple, but it broke something tight around my chest. "I'm fine," I said. "I've been fine, but someone else hasn't." Emily stiffened again. "What is that supposed to mean?" I didn't answer her. Instead, I stood up, slow and steady. This was the moment to gather clues, not throw blows. I walked toward the hallway and opened the closet, the one where I keep old records, boxes, files from the business my husband built. The closet was reorganized, too clean. Someone had been sifting through decades of family history. Ethan stepped up beside me and saw it too. "Emily, why were you in here?" No answer. Linda approached, smoothing her hair. "We were trying to help you. Your mother needed support." I held up a file, an old business statement with one page missing, a page with signatures, one from my husband, one from me, a page that held ownership percentages and legacy transfers. I met Linda's eyes. "Is that what you needed support with?" She looked away. Emily rushed forward, grabbing the file from my hand, too fast, too defensive. "It's old, it doesn't matter." Ethan stared at her, realization dawning like a slow sunrise. "You're trying to dig into the business?" Emily froze. There it was, the first real truth crackling in the air like static. I added quietly, "And someone named Russell seems very involved." Her face changed, not shock, fear. Ethan caught it instantly. "Emily, who is Russell?" she stammered. He's no one, just someone helping with the..." "Helping with what?" he pressed. Linda stepped between them, trying to block the collapse. "Don't question her like that, you're upsetting her." But it was already too late. The mystery was blooming, string by string, pulling tighter. I said softly, "Russell, that wouldn't be your father, would it?" Emily's face drained. Linda opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Ethan turned slowly toward me. "Her father? She told me her dad died years ago." A dangerous silence filled the room, not the silence of confusion. The silence of truth about to break loose. I stepped back, letting the pieces fall on their own. Emily whispered, "Mom, say something." But Linda couldn't, because her lies finally hit the light, and the light burned. The room felt like a held breath again. Waiting, waiting, waiting. This wasn't the end of the mystery. This was just the first layer peeled back. But I had everything I needed: a hidden father, a missing document page, reorganized files, a false guardianship attempt, and fear in the eyes of two women who thought I was harmless. Perfect. Fear sharpens truth, and truth was the only tool I needed. Truth doesn't arrive politely. It leaks in, slips under doors, cracks through lies like sunlight squeezing through blinds, and once it enters a room, it doesn't leave until everything is exposed. After the name Russell dropped into the air, the house went still. Emily stood frozen, lips parted, throat tight. Linda looked like she wanted to snatch the word out of existence. Ethan stared between them. Emily, you told me your father died when you were 16. Emily swallowed. Ethan, please. Is he alive? He asked, voice low and steady. Emily's eyes flicked to her mother, begging for a cue. Linda stayed silent. That silence was the answer. Ethan stepped back slightly, breath sharp. So he is alive, and he's part of whatever this is? Emily didn't speak. Silence again, a confession without words. I folded my arms gently. Your father's name is Russell, isn't it? And he's the one guiding you through this plan. Linda finally snapped to attention, tone defensive. You're twisting things. Russell has nothing to do with this household. But she said it too fast, and fast is how people lie when they're cornered. Ethan turned to Emily again. Why haven't I met him? Why lie about him being dead? Emily's voice broke into pieces. Because you wouldn't understand. Ethan's jaw tightened. Try me. She took a shaky breath. He's complicated. He has money problems, legal issues. He can't be around people who do background checks. So instead, I said gently, you brought his plans into our house. Emily wiped her eyes, frustration more than sorrow. You don't get it. He knows how inheritance works. He told us. He told us that if we didn't secure the house and the business shares, we'd be left with nothing. So it wasn't just manipulation. It was desperation, guided by a man hiding behind his daughter. Ethan's anger sharpened. Emily, you tried to take guardianship of my mother because your father wanted access to my family's assets. Emily lifted her hands weakly. It was supposed to be temporary, just until we got settled. He said once we had control of the house, we could refinance, fix our debts, restart everything. By erasing my mother? Ethan said. Tears rushed down Emily's cheeks. She wouldn't have felt it. We would have taken care of her, I swear. I spoke quietly. You don't take care of someone by stealing their life. Linda finally stepped in front of her daughter, protective and sharp. We did what we had to do. You don't know what it took to raise her. You don't know what Russell put us through. We're rebuilding. And to rebuild, I said, you thought you could tear through us. Emily wiped her face angrily. You've never respected me. You've never given me a chance. You treat me like a guest in this house, not family. This house isn't yours, I said calmly, and family doesn't hide evaluators in the living room. Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose, shaking his head. I can't believe this. Emily, how long have you and your mother been planning this? Emily froze. 5 seconds of silence. 10. Then her shoulders slumped. 8 months, she whispered. Ethan's eyes widened. You've been planning against my mother for 8 months? I wasn't, she stammered. I was planning for us. No, he said sharply. You were planning for you. Linda drew a long breath. Look, Ethan, you're young. You don't understand how money works. Don't, he snapped. Don't talk to me like I'm stupid. Linda closed her mouth. Good. The shift in power had begun. I walked slowly to the table and picked up the file with the missing page. The absence of that page hit harder now. Clear intention, not curiosity. I placed it gently in front of Emily. You were searching for the original page with the business inheritance, weren't you? Emily pressed her lips together. Her eyes dropped. She didn't deny it. And when you couldn't find it, I continued, you created a different plan. If I became legally incompetent, you and Ethan would control everything by default. Emily whispered, It wasn't supposed to go this far. But it did, I said, and now you can't pretend it didn't. Ethan looked sick, not just angry, betrayed in a way that goes bone deep. Mom, he said quietly, where's the missing page? I reached into the lining of my old leather purse, slipped out a sealed envelope and handed it to him. I moved it months ago. I said. When I first sensed something off. Call it intuition. This was the moment truth rearranged the room. Ethan opened the envelope. Inside was the original signed page, the one stating that my ownership remained intact even after my husband's death, and that my shares would transfer only to Ethan directly, never a spouse. Emily's face crumpled. She didn't know that part. She thought once she had me declared unfit, the estate would open like a safe. Ethan read it twice, then a third time. His jaw clenched in a way that told me he felt both shame and clarity. "This whole plan," he said, voice shaking, "wouldn't have worked even if Mom signed. You were risking everything. For nothing." Emily covered her mouth, tears streaming. I didn't know. "Russell told me. He said the spouse shares—" Linda interrupted. "We trusted him. He understood these things." I lifted my chin slightly. "You trusted a man who lies, hides, and uses his daughter as a puppet." Emily's voice cracked open. "It wasn't supposed to turn into betrayal. I wanted security. I wanted a life that didn't feel borrowed." "But you borrowed mine," I said, "and you almost stole it." Ethan stepped away from Emily. Not dramatically. Just one small step, but that one step felt like a door closing. Emily noticed. Her face broke. "Ethan, please don't step away from me. I'm your wife." He didn't step back toward her. "I married who I thought you were," he said. "Not someone who plots with evaluators and hidden fathers." Emily cried harder, reaching for him. He didn't move. Truth isn't gentle. It doesn't hold you when you fall. It lets you hit the floor and understand what you did. I placed my hand on the table, steady and calm. "Emily," I said, "your mistake wasn't wanting a better life. Your mistake was thinking you could take it from me." She looked at me, devastated. "May, I didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't," I said. "You educated me." Linda bristled. "You think you've won?" I smiled softly. "This isn't about winning. This is about light. And once the light hits, darkness loses its job." The house felt different now. The mystery wasn't rising anymore. It was unraveling completely, thread by thread. Ethan exhaled shakily. "I need time to think." Emily tried again. "Ethan, don't," he said quietly. And that silence, that second silence, hurt her more than any words could. Emily's world was collapsing. Linda was scrambling. Ethan was awakening. And I was just beginning. Because truth unfolding is only the warm-up. Justice comes next. Ethan didn't storm out. He didn't yell. He didn't even raise his voice. He just stood there, breathing slow, eyes fixed on the floor like he was trying to sift truth from memory. Quiet anger, the kind that rearranges entire families, wrapped itself around him. Emily reached for his arm again. "Ethan, listen to me, please." I was scared. "I only did all this because I love you." He stepped away, not violently, just a small shift, but the distance between them hit her like a slap. "That wasn't love," he said. "That was deception." Emily's face sank, tears streaking down her cheeks. "You're choosing her over me." "No," he said, voice low. "I'm choosing honesty over manipulation." Linda stepped forward, tone colder than ever. "You're being dramatic. All couples go through financial pressure. We were just—" "Stop talking for her," Ethan said sharply. "She's not a child." Linda froze, stunned. No one in that room had ever told her to sit down verbally, but Ethan just had. I watched the shift take place. Power doesn't always change hands loudly. Sometimes it just slides. From the liar to the listener, from the aggressor to the aware, from Emily and Linda to my son. Emily tried again, voice trembling. "I didn't know the inheritance wouldn't work like Russell said. I thought if we got ahead of things, Ethan and I could finally breathe." I looked at her, calm as stone. You almost suffocated someone else to catch your breath. Emily wiped her eyes hard. You think I wanted this? You think I woke up deciding to betray you? My whole life has been one survival after another. My father taught me— Your father taught you fear, I corrected. Then you mistook fear for strategy. Ethan shook his head slowly. You lied to me about him, for years. Emily covered her face. I was ashamed. Linda cut in sharply. She protected you. Russell is poison. You should be thanking her. Funny, I said. She didn't protect him from Russell's ideas, only from Russell's face. Linda's eyes snapped toward me. You're so smug, acting innocent. You pushed her, always correcting her, watching her like she was an intruder. She was an intruder, I said softly. Not because she married my son, because she tried to rewrite his life while he wasn't looking. The room tightened again. Emily's shoulders crumpled. I'm sorry, Ethan. I made bad choices, but I can fix this. We can fix this. Ethan studied her, really looked at her. The woman he married, the stranger she had become, the truth she'd tried to hide. Then he spoke the line that broke everything open. Did you ever love me without an agenda? Emily's lips trembled. I did. I do. Then why, he whispered, did your first plan involve destroying the woman who raised me? Silence. Cold? Heavy? Final? Linda stepped closer to her daughter like a shield. Don't answer him. He's emotional. He's confused. Ethan turned toward her. No, I'm finally clear. Emily reached one last time, desperate. I can undo it. I'll call off everything. I'll delete the reports. I'll return the files. You shouldn't have taken them in the first place, he said quietly. Then she said the wrong thing, the one sentence that sealed her fate. I did all this for us, but if you can't see that, maybe you don't deserve what I was trying to give you. Ethan exhaled sharply. Deserve? You tried to put my mother under guardianship, Emily. Her face broke open in shock. I didn't mean it like— But it didn't matter. He wasn't listening anymore. I stepped forward, not to comfort, not to gloat, but to anchor the moment. Because sometimes the truth needs a witness standing still in the room. Emily, I said gently, everyone makes mistakes, but some mistakes tell us who we really are. Her chin trembled. And who am I to you? I didn't hesitate. A woman who forgot that love and theft don't mix. Linda grabbed her purse, furious. We're leaving. Come on, Emily. Emily didn't move. She stared at Ethan, lost, shaken to her core. Please say something, she whispered. He spoke, the last thing she expected to hear. I need space, and you need to go with your mother. Emily blinked like she didn't understand the sentence, but she did. Oh, she did. Linda tugged her toward the door. Emily stumbled once, turned back, eyes red, broken, pleading. Ethan, please. But he didn't say another word, not one. When the door closed behind them, the house went silent. Not empty, not cold, just honest. Ethan leaned his hands on the table, shoulders shaking with the weight of clarity, betrayal, and loss. I walked to him, placed a hand on his back, grounding him. He whispered, Mom, how did we get here? I didn't answer. Some questions don't need answers. They need justice, and justice was next. Justice doesn't always look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like patience, timing, and a quiet woman who has finally decided she's done being underestimated. The day after Emily and her mother walked out, Ethan barely slept. I could hear him pacing upstairs through most of the night. Grief does that, moves a person from denial to clarity in long, uneven breaths. He wasn't just losing a wife. He was waking up from a long manipulation. Waking hurts. By morning, he came downstairs with his shoulders squared and his voice steadier than I'd heard in months. Mom, he said, I want to fix this, not with anger, with truth. I nodded. He didn't need my permission, just my presence. We began quietly. No dramatic scenes, no shouting, just order. Ethan called the business attorney first, explained the missing documents, the attempted guardianship papers, the reorganized closet that didn't reorganize itself, and the attorney didn't sound surprised. "May," he said, "you've always kept your files pristine. If something is missing, it was taken intentionally. I'll pull the backups." That was step one. Step two was harder. Ethan had to confront what Emily had already set in motion. He logged into their joint accounts, something he hadn't done in weeks. Emily always handled day-to-day bills, or so she said. The screen loaded slowly, but when it did, I watched his face fall. Withdrawals, transfers, payments to a consulting email that matched the name I'd seen on her phone, Russell. Ethan tried to breathe through it, but betrayal doesn't just sting. It rearranges your understanding of someone. "She used me," he whispered. "The whole time." I rested a hand on his arm. "No, she used the parts of you she thought you wouldn't notice. But you're not blind, Ethan. You're loyal." He swallowed hard. "I need to report this." "Yes," I said, "you do." Step 3 came quietly, naturally. The truth always finds the right ears when given the chance. Ethan scheduled a meeting with a mediator and insisted Emily attend. At first, she refused. Then Linda called him, angry, accusing him of betrayal. When that didn't work, she tried guilt. When that didn't work, she tried crying. Ethan didn't budge. By the time Emily finally walked into the mediator's office, she looked worn out, like the truth had been chasing her all night and she'd run out of places to hide. She didn't sit next to Ethan. She didn't look at me. She kept her eyes on her hands, twisting her ring around and around. The mediator began softly, "Ethan, what resolution are you hoping for today?" My son took a breath. "I need the truth documented," he said, "what my wife and her mother did, what they attempted. And I need separation, financial and personal, until I understand the full damage." Emily's head shot up. "You can't do that. I'm your wife." Ethan didn't flinch. "A wife doesn't put my mother up for evaluation without my knowledge." Her face twisted. I only... He lifted the printed bank statements. "You paid your father thousands, using our joint savings." Emily's voice shrank to a whisper. "He said it was temporary." "And the guardianship paperwork?" he asked. Her eyes burned with tears. "I was scared. My father said we'd drown in debt if we didn't secure a stable future." I panicked. "By targeting my mother?" Ethan asked quietly. Emily broke then. Not loudly, she just collapsed inwardly, shoulders folding like a wilted flower. "I thought if I could get you to trust me completely, you'd choose me over her." The room went still. She wasn't planning security. She was planning power. The mediator cleared her throat. "Emily, did you move May's files? Did you call the evaluators without Ethan's approval?" Emily didn't answer at first. Her mother wasn't there to speak for her. Her father wasn't in her ear. It was just her and truth. "Yes," she whispered. "I did." "And the intent?" the mediator asked. Emily broke into fresh tears. "I thought if she looked incapable, everything would get easier. I was wrong. I see that now." Ethan nodded once, not forgiving, just acknowledging the words existed. The mediator asked, "May, what outcome do you want?" I looked at Emily, really looked. She wasn't dangerous anymore, just exhausted and cornered by her own choices. "I want my life back," I said simply, "and I want my son's life free from lies." The mediator nodded, and justice began quietly unfolding. Emily agreed to return every document she moved. She consented to a financial audit. She waived rights to business involvement. She accepted a temporary separation while the legal issues played out. She acknowledged her father's involvement to protect Ethan from further risk. When it was all signed, she stood slowly, shaky. "May," she whispered, "I never hated you. I just didn't know how to be part of something that wasn't broken." I met her eyes with calm honesty. "You could have asked for help. But you tried to take it instead. That's why we're here." She nodded, defeated. Outside, when Ethan and I stepped into the sunlight, he let out a long breath like he'd been underwater for months. "It's over, Mom," he said. "No," I replied quietly. "It's just balanced." Justice isn't about punishment. It's about restoring weight to the right side of the scale. And that morning, the scale finally tipped back to where it belonged. The weeks that followed felt strangely calm, like the air after a long storm. Heavy, quiet, but honest. Nothing dramatic happened. No shouting matches, no sudden apologies. Life didn't snap back. It settled slowly, the way dust settles after a house has been shaken from its foundation. Ethan stayed with me during that time. Not because he had to, but because he needed space to rebuild the parts of himself Emily had quietly eroded. Some nights he sat at the kitchen table long after dinner, staring at nothing, the weight of betrayal sitting in the chair beside him. I didn't push him to talk. Mothers know when silence is healing, not harmful. One evening, while we washed dishes together, he finally exhaled and said, "I thought love meant trusting someone completely." I dried a plate and set it down gently. "Love means trusting someone's heart, not their agenda." He nodded slowly, letting the words settle. You can't unsee certain truths, and you can't unfeel certain wounds. But you can learn to live around them, to move forward with new awareness. The house felt lighter without the whispers, without the false concern, without Emily's careful choreography of control. I rearranged my files, put everything back exactly as I wanted, and for the first time in months, the drawer looked like it belonged to me again. One small thing stuck with me, though. My blue-rimmed cup still hadn't resurfaced. I'd checked every shelf, every box, every unlikely corner. Nothing. That cup had no monetary value, just memories. So maybe that's why its absence bothered me more than stolen documents or forged plans. Losing a cup wasn't the crime. Losing the respect behind its disappearance was. Then, a week after the mediation, a package arrived at the door. No sender name, just a small box. Ethan brought it in and slid it across the table toward me. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was my cup. Clean, intact, not chipped. And under it, a note in Emily's handwriting. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have tried to erase you, E." I sat there for a long moment, not crying, not angry, just thinking. People return stolen things when guilt finally outweighs pride, and guilt, for all its flaws, is still a human emotion. It means she felt something. I placed the cup on the shelf where it belonged. That simple motion felt like closing a door without slamming it. Later that evening, Ethan asked, "Do you think she really regrets it?" "Regret isn't the same as change," I said, "but it's a start. For her, not for us." He nodded, accepting that truth. Life doesn't go back to what it was before betrayal. It moves into something new, sometimes softer, sometimes stronger. For us, it was stronger. Ethan took over parts of the business with new boundaries. I gave him space to breathe and grow. And the house finally felt like a home again, not a battlefield disguised as a living room. One night, as I sat with my tea, the same symbolic tea I held during the quiet war, I felt a strange peace settle over me. Not victory, not satisfaction, just peace. The kind that comes when you survive something meant to break you. Justice had unfolded quietly without spectacle. The truth had stepped into the light, and I had stepped back into my own life. It wasn't triumph. It was restoration, and that was enough. 5 years passed like a slow, steady inhale. Not rushed, not chaotic, just life unfolding in the quiet ways it knows how. Ethan healed in layers, each one softer than the last. He remarried eventually, not quickly, not recklessly, but with the wisdom a broken heart earns. His new wife, Claire, treats our home like a home, not a stage. She laughs easily, listens fully, and never once asked me to disappear when guests arrive. Emily? She didn't vanish from the world, just from ours. I heard through a distant relative that she moved 2 states away, started working at a small accounting firm, and cut ties with her father completely. Good. Some roots can't be saved. They have to be severed so the tree survives. Linda, her mother, tried to reach out once. Not to apologize, not to reconcile, just to clear the air. I never returned the call. Some air isn't meant to be cleared. It's meant to stay on the other side of a closed window. As for me, I found a rhythm I didn't know I was missing. I tend to my garden in the mornings. I volunteer twice a week. I host Sunday dinners that always end with someone laughing too hard. My life didn't shrink because someone tried to push me out of it. It expanded when I took it back. Sometimes, when I sit with my evening tea, my blue-rimmed cup warm in my hands, I think about those days, the whispers, the stolen papers, the quiet war under my own roof. Not with bitterness, not with lingering anger, just clarity. I learned something important. When someone tries to erase you, don't fight the erasure. Stand still. Let them reveal themselves. Then walk back into the space they thought they could claim. Because sometimes being left behind is the fastest way to get ahead. Tell me, what would you have done in my place? And if you've ever trusted the wrong people, this story is for you.